Jeffy Gergenti.
Hey, we are back at Saturday night, and we have a returning guest with a new book. We have Dr. Shannon Kroner, and she had her book. Let me see your book so I can show it to our audience.
This is the original.
So the original,
my first book.
The original one is I'm Unvaccinated, and That's Okay. And you had so many great endorsements on that book.
Yeah.
And now you have a brand new book. It's not out until what, June?
So it is actually available for pre-order right now on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble.
Right.
And then it starts to get delivered out in August.
Nice.
So, but I want to say, people want to pre-order it now, because what happened with the last book is that those who got it after it already came out, it sold out. It sold out during the pre-orders.
Oh, wow.
And so those who bought I'm Unvaccinated and That's Okay after it was not then available had to wait several weeks in order for the delivery. So with this new one, I'm saying, pre-order it now so that you're already ahead of the game when, you want to get your book on time.
Great. Well, I can't wait to order. I haven't ordered it yet. I for some reason, I thought you had copies of it. I saw your Instagram post. I thought you had copies, and I was like, well, I'll just wait and talk to you before I order it. But I definitely want to order it and get it out there. And then the great thing is the number of people that endorsed it.
Yes.
You got some great endorsements this time around.
Yes.
I mean, you had great ones before.
Yeah. So with my first book, I got endorsements from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Del Bigtree, a bunch of different, doctors, Dr. Peter McCullough. This new book, Let's Be Critical Thinkers, I have also Dr. Peter McCullough, General Flynn, Roger Stone, Roseanne Barr. I've got an endorsement from Dr. Joe Ladapo, who's the Surgeon General of Florida.
Wow.
So, so Ricky Schroeder, he's endorsed both my books. So some really great endorsements. I'm really excited about it. And it really, Let's Be Critical Thinkers really covers everything that that everybody went through during the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it like, there's a heading, there's a subtitle. It's called Let's Be Critical Thinkers. And then it says critically thinking about masks, social distancing, lockdowns, and vaccines. It covers it all.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, people seem to think as COVID's over that we're still not dealing with that, and we are.
Oh, we are definitely dealing with it.
I still people see driving down the street with their mask on.
There's still people wearing masks. But the thing is the repercussions of what that did to our children.
Oh, yeah.
And look, we don't know what the future holds. And right now they're trying with like bird flu. We just saw all the eggs disappear from, markets and stuff. Who knows what is the future with pandemics,
right?
And vaccines and mandated vaccines and, all of the above.
Right.
I wrote this book because really seeing what my own children went through during the pandemic.
How old are your kids again?
So I have he's almost 15 and 11-year-old. And I will say my 11-year-old did a lot to help me with this new book. I really wanted to get a child's perspective. And so he really kind of gave me his input on a lot of the illustrations and the wording. And so, but really the book is really from a child's perspective, what it was like going through the pandemic, but really like teaching critical thinking skills, because in today's day, children are not, they're told what to think and not how to think.
Right.
And there really is no room in our educational system today for free thinkers, for, to kind of think outside of the box.
Well, people don't realize when you cut off the critical thinking of children, you stop producing entrepreneurs.
Oh, definitely.
They don't become entrepreneurs anymore. They don't think about how to fix problems or create solutions or do something different, because they're so busy being told what to think, how to think, what to do, when to do it, how to do it. I mean, it's just the fact that we have to have so many companies that have HR and all the HR laws that have come through over the last, especially since COVID. I don't know how many laws have changed over HR. Like people can't do anything anymore.
That's true. And so what's happening in our schools is that, children, it's all rote memorization. Memorize this. This is how it happened.
Take
this
a
is
test.
what it did.
See if you pass.
Isn't that ultimately like a culture?
Hi, Don.
Hello, I'm here. But essentially, you have a compliance culture that you're creating. It's all compliance.
It's all compliance. Robots. We're producing robot children.
So it's like it's like that officer who, back in the days they'd give you a chance because they'd understand that. Right? Not to say that's the court, but they'd say I can understand why you made that legal move in your car, right? But you did it for safety reasons. But they might say, no, I'm sorry, man, but the law is the law, and this is a compliance, and you're getting this ticket anyway today.
Yeah.
So it's like we could having people who are critical thinkers actually saves the taxpayers lots of money. Okay. Not only that, we can get real entrepreneurs to actually make stuff that is needed and necessary. But I mean, we have right now in this country just technology changing at such a rapid pace. I mean, all of us have grandparents that if they were staring at this screen, would look at it and say, Facebook.
My grandparents were dead long before
my
that
mom
ever
still
happened.
doesn't know how to use Facebook. My mom is on Facebook and she does not know how to use Facebook.
My mom's like a thug on Facebook. She's 80-some years old, but she'll hit you up and say,
don't
why
say
did
she's
you not...
80-something. She's 80. Don't age her, the poor thing.
Okay, she's not 80-something.
She's 80.
Up there.
She's not even 81 yet.
If she knows how to do Facebook.
Not only that, she's great on the computer. I mean, his mom can use her phone. She can do all kinds of stuff and do languages.
Yeah, not my mom. My mom doesn't. She's not tech savvy.
I'm not even sure my mom was really still alive when cell phones were doing what they do today. I mean, she's been gone 13 years, so cell phones didn't do what they do now.
No smartphones. 13 years ago.
No. I mean, but you hit it on the head as far as like, that they're not teaching kids how to think; it's what to think, and that's just compliance.
Well, especially with like the woke ideology right now.
Oh yeah.
Men can have babies, or there's a million different genders, things like that.
I just drove right in downtown. They had a whole little protest of that sort. I think it was just a protest against Trump. Actually, they just had everybody out there. But
look at the fencer that just took a knee.
The who? I didn't hear you say.
She's a fencer.
Oh yes,
Turner,
I did see that.
She knew there was a man competing as a woman in fencing, and she waited. She put her helmet on, took her stance, and the minute the ref let them go, she dropped a knee, pulled her helmet off, and people had a fit, and they actually kicked her out of the competition. And the transgendered male walked up to her and said, "You do know you're getting thrown out of the competition if you do this." She goes, "I don't really care. I'm not competing against you."
Yep.
It's not a fair competition. And people look at fencing and think, well, why wouldn't it be fair? There's only one competition in the Olympics. There's only one that men and women compete equally, and it's an equestrian. Whether you're a dressage, a jumper, or you are an eventer, all men and women compete the same on horseback. It is the only sport in the Olympics that men and women will compete together.
And from what you told me, they're not even going to have that in L.A.
They're not having it in L.A. No, they're having it in
LA
Temecula. Temecula picked it up.
Okay.
Well, the city council changed the rules on certain bits and spurs and whatnot. Well, that just said that all these Olympians can't compete in LA County, or LA City. See ya. LA City did it.
Some of those people should have had some critical thinking. They
needed your book.
Seriously, I think everybody.
I have a feeling your book isn't for the kids. It's going to be more for the adults that we've elected into city offices.
It's really for everyone.
Let's start with Karen Bass.
Yeah, I mean, my book, it's really for everyone. It's really for parents and children to sit together and discuss, what it means.
It looks like a heavy read there. How many pages is that?
My new book?
Yeah, we're looking at the old book because we don't have a copy.
We don't have a copy of the new book.
Let's take back though. This is the first interview you've done for the new book.
Yes, you did my first interview for the first book, and now you're doing the first interview for the second book.
And we probably have some new listeners. Our listenership has gone way up since we started Jeffy Said What. So let's step back because we've got some listeners I'm sure that have never heard from, and they don't know who you are, or they might be a little familiar. So give them a little bit of your background. Your doctor.
Yes. So I've got a doctorate in clinical psychology,
Right.
and a master's in special education. I've worked with special needs children since 2001, and I have fought vaccine mandates since 2015. Even prior to that, my doctoral dissertation from 2013 was on vaccine choice. And I don't know if all your listeners know this or not, but we have zero vaccine choice in California
Nope, we
for
do not.
children. So in 2015,
That was Proposition 177, wasn't it?
SB 277 in
Yeah,
2015, we lost our religious exemptions and our personal belief exemptions. And then in 2019, we had SB 276, and we lost our medical
It's almost like they were
exemptions.
planning for something. Oh no.
Well, exactly.
What are you intimating over there?
I'm just saying. I mean, something happened shortly thereafter, right?
That's
I mean,
very true. 6 months later, we had the pandemic. I always knew that there was going to be vaccine mandates for adults. And that's what happened with the pandemic. And anyway, so I've been, that's really kind of my background is I've been this like freedom fighter for vaccine choice. And, for a very long time, I have recognized that there is a correlation between vaccines and vaccine injury in special needs children. And it's been a passion of mine for quite some time. And so, that's why my first book was about really saying like it's okay to be unvaccinated, because a lot of what was happening, what I have seen is that a lot of first children the parents would follow the vaccine schedule. The first child would get injured, and then when they had a second or third child,
That's us.
they didn't want to
I did
follow
that.
the CDC schedule anymore, and California doesn't allow for that. And so that was what the first book was really based on. The second book is really based on, teaching kids how to be critical thinkers, how to, kind of just think for themselves, think outside the box, do the research, ask the questions, understand propaganda. I have a whole couple pages
Well,
on
that's what I was going to get
what
to.
propaganda
is the
is.
fact that, in my home, my parents were kind of like, number one, they try to raise honest, trustworthy children, right? Because there's going to come a time, kind of like the boy that cried wolf. There's going to come a time that I'm going to need to be able to trust you. I'm going to have to be able to trust that you're telling me the truth. And so, I look at parents not backing up their kids as also a problem. But it's also how you're raising your kids, as well, right?
Definitely.
So,
And
it
there's
all
a
goes
piece
hand
in
hand.
my new book about that.
Yeah.
There's a piece in the book where it talks about how, the little girl, her name is Darlene Data. That's the main character of this book. And she talks about how her parents, teach her to ask the right questions, to ask the questions of like the who's, the what, the why is this happening? Where is it coming from? And
it's funny. I'm going to
it's so
interrupt you for one
important.
sec, because I didn't have kids, but I've been around a tremendous amount of kids, and I hear kids ask, "But mommy, why? Daddy, why? What is this? What is that?"
And they say,
And
"Just
it's-
because."
And it's yes, and I hear parents go, "Just because I said so," or just
Exactly.
because they don't ever want to answer their children. And I think a lot of the lack of critical thinking in children has to do with
Yeah.
parents, and they keep wanting to blame the schools. It's the schools.
But
it's
isn't
the
it funny
schools.
when you play around with kids in that way? Like you start, you're not entertaining. You're engaging with them. Kind of like fencing, right? And there's a bit of offensive, defensive, and sometimes they'll actually hit you with a punchline that you're like, "Holy cow, how old are you again?" Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on upstairs. There's a lot that they have perspective, and sometimes we have so much static of what's going on in the real world that they actually have a clear vision of what's happening, and they say things that are remarkably clear.
I see that with my kids all the time.
But see, you guys are both parents that sit and talk to your children. Both of you will sit down and talk to them and explain to them what's going on. I mean, I hear parents in the grocery stores or anywhere that I'm out, and the kids are curious and they just want to hush them up, hand them a phone. They don't really want to talk to
it's
them.
They carry phones like they're hotcakes, and they just throw them out to them.
And it
it's,
is
"Here you
so
go."
important today to engage
Mm-hmm.
in conversation with. When we were going through the pandemic, I pointed out everything to my children. People who were wearing masks alone in the car. the mandated vaccines, they are fully aware of how on TV, how the commercials are marketed to certain people. So like if you watch my younger son, he loves the Game Show Network, so which my mom got him into, and so but we watch that because
game shows are good for kids. It's critical thinking.
He learns a ton from it. But the thing is that when it's mostly older people who watch the Game Show Network, and you could see all the commercials are medications geared toward diabetes and cholesterol and whatever it is,
you're the marketed target. You're the target group.
And so, and so I've shown my son, like, look at how they market to people. And now he recognizes it.
The crazy thing is that he's watching these with them. Are they watching cartoons? Or I don't know what age your kids are, but are they watching
11 and 15?
11, 15. Are they watching what they would be watching for an 11, 15-year-old? I mean, because then they would be picking up on like, holy cow, look what's being targeted to them.
I talk to my kids about everything. World views, politics. We have open debate on stuff. I think that's really important. Debate is really, it's not even allowed anymore. If you, God forbid, you think the wrong thing or you disagree with a teacher or...
Well, but they can't disagree because there's no critical thinking going on at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, how does a child debate with a parent or a teacher when, first of all, it's not an open table for them to do so, and they're not being taught any critical thinking skills when their parents are going, you know what, Johnny, I'm really busy right now. Why you don't need to know why right now?
Right.
You don't need to know because. Just go with it. Because I said so. You know what I mean? My mom, I was the question asker as a child. I had to ask a million questions.
Me too. Asker. I think that's where this book came from. It's me and all the questions. I still do.
Yeah, but I didn't get I'm not answering that question right now until my mom had been questioned to death. At that point, it wasn't a matter of she didn't want to answer it. She was tired of answering questions. I just see parents that don't want to answer the questions at all. They haven't even had too many.
My grandfather sent me home because I asked too many questions.
Go home.
He was like, come pick up this child. He is asking way too many questions.
That's funny.
Yeah. So...
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to know more about the world. And so as an adult, I ask questions all the time. I haven't stopped asking questions because I was raised that way. Well, I was raised to be curious.
It's so important, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially with everything that we've all just gone through, especially with like the vaccines, right? Nobody was allowed to ask questions. All the science was censored. And
we did it in private when no one was allowed to be anywhere. We were in our offices upstairs,
right?
In Woodland Hills, having 70 people in a room when everyone was like, "Be masked." And what was interesting is not one person ever got COVID.
Well, I mean, and that's exactly the point. That's the point of this new book, is that it teaches children to ask the right questions. It talks about censored science and why science should never be censored. And it talks about what propaganda is and how to recognize it, how to do you remember they would say stay away from grandma because, right? And there's billboards.
You're going to kill grandma if you don't get vaccinated. Yeah. I mean, they actually had billboards that said that.
Exactly. And my book actually has a billboard.
Guess what? There's empty beds at the senior living center. And they start sending people with COVID, It's like crazy. It's why it's so, they had these goals that were just so conflicting, but yet, I mean,
well, there was an agenda.
Of course, at that point, you're like, there's got to be an agenda,
right? So, and so really, that's kind of what this book is for, is to kind of wake up the minds of children. I think that it's so important that children are free thinkers.
You had a run-in and you posted it on Instagram
a couple days ago.
This is great. This is fabulous. So when you wrote Penn, I was thinking Sean Penn.
Okay. He probably would have acted the same, to be honest.
I'm thinking Sean Penn. I go, well, that would be pretty typical. And then you clarified it, and I'm like, oh my, I don't even know who these people are.
Penn and Teller?
No, I have no idea who they are.
Do you know who Penn and Teller is?
Penn and Teller.
They're like magicians. They debunk magic. They have a show in Las Vegas.
Oh, I've never heard of them.
And they've had a whole bunch of different shows on TV debunking certain magic tricks or trying to figure them out to see, is it a good magic trick or can I figure it out?
That's kind of a bummer.
I mean, it's kind of cool. I'd watch it. Yeah.
I mean,
they have
what happened? What was the
So they have in the past talked about vaccines, and I already knew their stance, especially Penn's stance on vaccines, very pro-vax. And I happened to see him. I happen to have
So
a
they're
book.
magic haters and they're pro-vax. I don't like them. I'm not watching the
haters.
show. I can't do it. Magic haters
Vaccine lovers.
and vaccine lovers. I can't do it.
Hey, at least they're doing the love and the hate. It's just not
Yeah.
what we agree with.
But so I happen to have a book with me, and it's so funny because I usually I don't have a book in my purse, but that day I had a book in my purse.
And yours, and you gave him that.
It was my
I'm not-
unvaccinated book.
Right, I'm not vaccinated. It's
And
okay.
so it was in my purse, and I'm at lunch with my mom, and I see that Penn is sitting outside. And so I'm like, I can't miss this opportunity to wake him up, or at least try.
Educate.
So, and I was like super polite. I went up to him and just was like, you know, has your stance on vaccines changed at all? And he knew something was coming. He kept repeating, "Oh boy, oh boy." And I was like, okay, well, you know, and then I said to him, I was like, I'm the author of this children's book. I'm unvaccinated, and that's okay. It's been endorsed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And he goes, "Oh, that's the worst you can get." And I was like, okay, well, I'm
wow.
giving this to you as a gift, and, you know, take it, read it. I said, after you open it and read through it, you want to toss it, do whatever you want with it. And I was super polite, nice, and then walked away, leaving the book with him. And I kind of stood back and watched what he was going to do. And there was a woman with him. I don't know if that was his wife or friend or what, but he showed it to her, and she took my book and like slammed it on a table. I've never seen anybody. Let me tell you, you know, I've met Howie Mandel.
Right.
And I gave my book to Howie Mandel. And he is a germaphobe. He's a
Yep.
known germaphobe.
Yep.
And he was polite and gracious and nice. And so
And then he dipped it in alcohol.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway,
Dipped it in alcohol.
rubbing and a
alcohol.
million other things.
But I mean, like, so I did not expect, I would expect something more like that kind of behavior from like someone like Howie Mandel or whatever. But like this couple right here, she slammed it on the table, and I saw the whole thing happen. I was like, all right, well, whatever. I'll leave it on the table because maybe somebody else will come along and be like, ooh, free book, and appreciate it, and they'll learn something. And so I left it there, and then went and got in my mom's car, and we started to drive away. Like literally, my mom's backing up, and this lady comes running after with the book in hand. I'm like, oh man, what is she gonna do? And then I'm like worried for my mom because she's on the driver's side, and
Something tells me mom's a thug.
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
She is.
She didn't raise a daughter like
Yeah, right.
about that.
And then my mom rolls down the window, and the lady like hands it back. She's like, "We don't want this." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Well, this is a great way to announce my new book." Like it just happened on the day that the book got onto Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I was like,
You know,
perfect.
here's the thing. I mean, you're in public eye. You're in public, and you know what? If you don't want it, that's fine. You know, why not just say thank you very much and leave it on the table and walk away?
Yeah.
Or, you know, take it home and at least at least look through it and go, I don't agree with any of it, and open up a conversation. But your next book really addresses the critical thinking of adults, because that was just so not a critical thinking moment for these two adults.
Seriously.
You know what
They
I
will
mean? It's
probably
like,
do the same thing they did with the first book.
but you know what?
But that's why they need it. That's why they need the critical thinking
But real quick, what I
skills.
wanted to say before we go to commercial is that, you know, this is an opportunity for people that are less likely to believe in the anti-vax, and it's not an anti-vax, but the choice of vaccination. This is an opportunity for them to at least look at the other side.
These people are dream killers.
We're hitting a hard break.
And magic
And
killers
magic
are
haters.
and magic haters.
We're hitting a hard
I don't
break.
know how- you
We'll
can't
be
get
right
any worse
back.
than that.
You're listening to Jeffy on Jeffy Said What with our wonderful guest Dr. Shannon Kroner, and of course Dawn, who's on the cameras, and we will be right back. Don't go away because we've got so much more to talk about.
But I'll kneel.
Well, and we are back. So there was a point that I wanted to make when we went off the air, and that is that here was an opportunity so we have so many closed-minded people. They're pro-vax. They don't want to hear the other side. They don't want to hear anything to do with it. They think Robert Kennedy is crazy. I mean, I'm a fan of his. There are some things I look at him and I'm like, I don't know. But that's with anything. Do you know what I mean? That's with anything.
Yeah.
I look at adults and wonder why they still do drugs. I'm like, I don't get it.
Smokers.
But they do. They still smoke cigarettes. I saw a guy with his windows up with a cigarette smoking himself out in a car. And I think with everything we know, why would you? So I think that we all get that reason to want to have our own beliefs and stick it in one way. So here was this opportunity for you to give Penn your book. And even though it says I'm unvaccinated and that's okay, the book is about a child that got vaccinated and they had a reaction to the vaccine and they were vaccine injured. And it's really the parents deciding not to vaccinate that next child and the children after that. And how does that child deal with they're unvaccinated and they're okay because they have a vaccine injured sibling? And I think that this individual lost the opportunity, and you mentioned that it was on National Autism Day as well that this occurred.
Yes.
Like it was one of those whole days. But they missed out on the opportunity to understand why somebody may not be inclined to vaccinate. Not that they're not saying they won't vaccinate, but they're not inclined to vaccinate. And I think that they do this to us when we have this stand that we are not involved. So I said when we were off air, I was going to tell a little story about the transgendered issue. So my niece, who was on the radio a couple weeks ago, is very liberal. She's very liberal. It took a lot for me to understand her being liberal. And so rather than being in an argument with her constantly, because I never got anywhere with it, I want to understand more. So when the transgender thing really started taking off and started becoming an issue, I sat down and tried to talk to her about it, and she just got nasty. And I finally looked at her and I said, you know what? You want conservatives to understand people wanting to be transgendered, but when we ask you questions, all of you liberal people take our heads off when we're trying to understand the situation. At least we're making the effort. And it was interesting to watch her click and realize that she was not helping the situation by not being open to help us understand. I'm not going to run out and be transgendered, and I have no desire to be, but I might be a little bit more compassionate to somebody who did or who was thinking about it, or I might be able to approach it with a little bit more understanding. And with your book, Critical Thinking, you have sistered it up with your I'm unvaccinated and that's okay, with that critical thinking way of going. You can say, okay, let's critical think why someone might not want to be vaccinated, or someone may not want to be understanding the transgendered issue, or they may not want to understand why girls shouldn't be playing with boys in baseball or football or contact sports. You know what I mean? It's like your critical thinking book was like a great stepping stone to this. And here's this liberal individual that doesn't want to hear it.
But here's the problem I hear you on that, but Shannon Kroner has been doing this for, you said 2015?
2001.
2001, okay. Well, okay, let's look at it this way. So you set up this first off, the educational system is a monopoly. And so what better way to indoctrinate but through the systems that allow for you to indoctrinate? Not only that, through COVID, people saw what their kids were being indoctrinated in, and just like same thing with the scenario you said that your son watches now these older shows. Now the parents are watching the shows or whatever through online learning or at home learning, and that didn't exist before. But also before that, they started to give these children certain rights where their parents didn't have to be in the room.
Oh yeah, that's scary.
Right? So, and I shared a story, I don't know if it was on this
program. No, it was on the LHRC.
But I shared a story where my oldest son was, I think he had turned, what age is it? 13
he was 13.
Or 14
he had
something.
Just turned 13.
And so the doctor was like, you sure you want, we roll deep. I mean, there's 6 of us. We all roll in, 2 sisters, the brother, mom, dad, and
the other brother.
Yeah, and so then.
Grandma was at home.
Right, Grandma was at home. But what happened in that situation was that we had this new doctor who was an older gentleman, but he was following the rules and regulations. He was offering the child an opportunity to be with him, getting consulted in private, and so he says, "No, I'm fine with all of them coming," right?
Good.
So he goes and he sits down and everything, and so the doctor starts going through his questions and all that stuff, and the kids are chuckling because some of the questions are new. They've never heard of these questions.
Are you sexually active?
Yeah.
Are you?
But he started. But he did his elevator pitch to sell the HPV vaccine.
I was going to say HPV
right
is
there
at that time.
And my son said, "No, it's okay. I'm not going to have it." Now, mind you, he's an MMR vaccine injured with epilepsy to this day from it, and we've done lots of things to help him and relieve his symptoms from the vaccine injury. But he says, no, that's okay, fine. But this doctor continues to press him. He says, well, if you become sexually active, you don't want to give a girl HPV. Or no, he doesn't even say it that way. You don't want to give her cancer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right?
He went that far, like he skipped the whole. Yes, isn't that disgusting?
That's horrible.
But imagine if.
But I'm sure that's the narrative that many doctors use.
But imagine if you're a 13-year-old child and you're angry at your parents because this morning they took your cell phone away for you didn't clean your room or whatever. This kid's like, I'm going to go in by myself. I don't need you. And now they get indoctrinated by this doctor and they're mad at their parent. Now they're going to take a shot that they otherwise might not have taken because they don't.
I mean, shoot, I went to the doctor recently for my annual and they gave me this 2-page thing on my psychoanalysis. Do you feel depressed? Do you feel like, and I'm just like, I didn't come here for this. It's an annual. Can we just get to it?
Well, that's because everybody's on some kind of medication.
Oh my God, depression in children is way up.
Isn't that scary?
Depression, anxiety, it is way up in children now.
And more in women young girls, right?
Grades are lower. Like I read a statistic, it's 1/4 of kids are not meeting math standards right now.
1/4.
A fourth.
Wow.
Of children.
Is that nationwide or in California? Because we're 43.
No, nationwide.
Because we're 43 in
nationwide. It was something like it was around. It was like 25%. I think it was 26% of children across the board are not.
Well, because they did that new math thing.
Math.
They made the whole and
it's 1/3 of kids who are not at the reading level. They're not at the correct reading level today.
That's because they stopped treating. You know what? It's like you brought up a really good point, Don. They're not. They went into this whole weird math thing that they tried to teach, and I remember Don trying to teach his daughter's division, and he's like, "What are you doing? What is with all these boxes?"
I was a math major, right? So
He's
So
like,
it
"Look
was
at
a
the
Common
boxes."
Core.
So
I went through that with Common Core. My kids are, homeschooled, and so
So it is.
Yeah, now
Common
they
Core.
weren't before though. But they were getting bad grades for not doing it the way the teacher wanted them to do it.
And they were still getting the right answer, which I don't understand.
Yeah. I said, sweetheart, I do not care. If you are getting the right answer and you're getting it done in a fraction of the time, you're doing something right. That's all I told her. And she was fine with it. I said, I don't care what grade the teacher sends you home with. I really don't care.
As long as you can do the math as an adult when you walk out the door, that's all that matters.
But see, that goes back to the
They're not letting them critical think.
That goes back to the support. Yeah, it goes back to the support that mom and dad have to give their children.
Well, and think about it. It's just a kind of a spiral where kids are, if they're not reading at grade level and they're not doing math at grade level, then the depression sets in and then the anxiety sets in. And then, it's just this snowball effect.
Yeah, so let's just medicate them all.
Oh, and that's really the cop-out.
Yeah, let's just medicate them. And, this is where your book, Critical Thinking, comes in, because I think when you have a book like this that kids can read on their own, I think that's something that they can start asking their teachers questions about why this and why that.
Definitely. I mean, and what's interesting is the way that I've set this book up is it's kind of almost in like 2 chapters. It's a kid's illustrated book. It's probably about 45 pages. And the first half of it is what is critical thinking? What are critical thinking skills? And what is propaganda? And what did society do to convince people to wear a mask and get vaccinated and social distance and the lockdowns? And what was that effect?
All of which now Fauci has come out with it didn't work.
What were some of the tactics that you say? I mean, that the book
What,
might
donuts?
Oh, donuts have here.
Bribery.
I said bribery. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Wait,
that's
they did
crazy.
they did it to enormous kids because
They
we
did
wouldn't
it
stay
to
out front of their
everybody, yeah.
school.
Get a donut, get
Yeah.
vaccinated, and you get a free donut.
No, we'll give you pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza
His 2 nieces were kept in the office.
Culver City School District, shame on them.
Culver
And we
City
went
School
down
District.
there and
We were there every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy what they did, right? So the first part of my book really talks about that. And then the second...
That's propaganda, people, just in case you don't know.
Yeah, no, it talks all about what propaganda is, how to recognize it, how celebrities endorsed all these things. And then the second half of the book is the main character. She really kind of dives into each part. So she dives into masks. Do they really work? And let me look at the science. And so like in the book, in a in a kid's way, she's like interviewing scientists and asking them about, how does a mask work? And, like particles, can they go through the mask, paper masks and stuff like that? And then it goes on to, what did the lockdowns do? All the kids ended up on, computer school, Zoom school. And what did that do to their relationships? What did that do to their, learning abilities? And what did that do to anxiety and depression? And the little little girl in the book talks about that. And then it goes into social distancing, and the pictures are my illustrator is amazing. It's the same illustrator.
I was
as
gonna say
the
it's the same
book.
one.
Yeah, same illustrator. So good. It shows like the little girl. Remember when there was like all the arrows down the market and stuff like that?
There's still in some places. They're still
there really
there.
is, and like stand
They never
here
took
and
them off.
stand there. Like X marks the spot. You got to stand in the different. So I mean, all of that is illustrated in the book. And then the final part of that is the mandated vaccines, and it really kind of talks about how what happened with our first responders, military, and how they were forced to do something that they may not have wanted to do without informed consent. The book talks about what informed consent is, because I think that every child, especially like what you're saying about how they, your kids were sent to the principal or whatever, like kids need to know what informed consent is, and they need the information in order to consent, whatever it is, whether it's vaccines or something else. And, we have, it was like 8,400 of our service members were kicked out of the military. That was a really big
That's a
deal
huge
to me.
number.
That's
Well,
a
let's talk
huge-
about the LA City firefighters. Our friend Don Knox.
Yes.
I mean, John Knox. John Knox is now right
Well, now
underneath-
he's working for
right-
Trump. It's
Right under
awesome.
Robert. He works right under Robert Kennedy. He's his right-hand man. And so he fought, and he never stood down on that. He stood up. He went to every court hearing. He started Firefighters for Freedom.
Yeah.
And, now he's fighting it in the big leagues.
And he also had his first big interviews on,
His very first interview was
on the LHRC.
was with us, yeah. And then I've had him on multiple times. I can't wait for him to come back so we can bring him on. We could not announce that I think I was his third phone call that he had been called up by Trump. And so he's like, I can't say anything. You can't say anything. You can't put it in the press.
I'm super happy.
But I
for
mean,
him.
again, that critical thinking is what comes in. I mean, our firefighters, our military are taught that critical thinking, and so many have paid the price. And not only did they pay the price with the ones that needed to take it to stay in the military, or for whatever reason they wanted to stay in the military. People don't realize when they chose not to take those vaccines and got out of the military, if they were getting college paid for, they lost that.
They lost everything.
That's what people don't understand.
They lost their funeral rights
Yeah.
to have a military funeral.
No way.
Yeah,
So
they lost everything.
They lost everything. They lost their pensions. They lost so much. And do you know, I was reading a statistic that only less than 50 have actually returned now that they lifted
Who would go back?
the mandate. Yeah.
Well, you got to remember too, it's been 5 years, so they're not in the physical shape they were. They've probably found jobs, other things have come along, or a lot of them have ended up, severely depressed
Or injured.
or who
Vaccine
knows.
injured.
Or
This
just
whole
went
thing was
into
terrible.
Getting a regular job.
Huh?
Maybe they got regular jobs.
That's what I'm saying. They kind of probably moved on. But, having a book of critical thinking for kids is like ideal. If you can get parents to start reading it to their kids, we're going to get more parents who are going to be critical thinkers. I mean,
that's what we need
That's
to.
almost like
Yeah.
a national security issue, don't you think?
What, critical thinking? National security issue?
It is.
Yeah, I mean,
It really
if
is.
you're not a critical thinker, then you can't really run
If you
much.
can convince the entire military to take a jab that would then therefore exterminate them, you've effectively
Yeah.
just disarmed an entire country.
I think that was their intention, really. That's my opinion.
I think so too. I mean, it definitely weakened. It was the weakest our military's ever been.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but what's interesting is since Trump came into office, I saw something on the news with Pete
Hegseth.
Hegseth, and he was saying that the military was up huge amounts. They had 3,800 people sign up in a week or something. I mean, it was just, and you don't think 3,800 is a lot, but when you figure they lost 8,500 by not being vaccinated, 3,500 was a lot. I mean, they said that the percentages of people signing up to get back into the military has been huge. It's been really, really huge.
Well, yeah, because it's an administration that values our soldiers, and The new administration, they actually value our military, and they, it's
Well, but you know what? When you think about it, the military we had warriors in need come on. We had Ben, who's become a good friend of mine. He came on and he was headed down a really bad road, and the judge said it's going to be jail or the military. He chose the military, and it changed his entire life. And now he has a nonprofit, Warriors in Need, where he helps soldiers coming out of the military and capturing them to get them into, airframe licensing and different things, and they pay for it. And I think that again, it all stems from critical thinking. If you can't critical think, you can't get yourself out of anything.
right.
You know what I mean? I mean, what a great thing for you to come up and decide. And you had said you were going to write more books. So
I have 2 more also that are coming. They're
For
in the
the adults?
pipeline. What is it?
For the adults?
No, they're all.
they're
I
all
love
kids' books.
Okay.
You know what? I
just
love
asking.
writing
Well, they're
for children.
you.
I love writing for
I'll read
children.
them
My
too.
kids, they're giving their input, and my kids, I've really raised. My husband, I've raised our kids to be, critical thinkers, free thinkers, and really kind of ask all the questions, and so it's something so important today.
Well, it was fun going into Barnes and Noble and seeing your books on the shelf.
I
And
remember when you did that.
I went in and I grabbed them so we could have you autograph
Oh,
them.
I got to tell you, I went into a library last week. A local library.
Uh-huh.
Went into the library with my unvaccinated book and signed it. Before I went in, I signed it. I walked in and I said, I want to donate this to the library. And they said, oh, we've got a whole section for our local authors. This is great. And they showed me the wall of local author books. And then
I saw this post. I know it's coming.
they look at the book and they're like, oh, we don't know where to put this. And I'm like looking at them like,
With
did
the
you
local
just say
authors, obviously.
And so then this other woman comes up and she's like, oh, she didn't see the title of the book yet. She goes, oh, we'll put you with the local authors and whatever. And then the guy looks at her, gives it like the death stare kind of look. And they're like, oh, you know what? Before we do anything, we have to send it to downtown and get it approved. And
How funny it
blah,
wasn't
blah,
like that
blah.
when you first walked in.
Oh, no.
What happened to supporting local authors?
Yeah, right?
Wow.
We're going to support a local author unless it goes against our values.
Yeah, I mean, think about that, right? So, but that's
That's censorship.
It's censorship, and it doesn't allow for thinking in any other
Critical
way.
thinking. Yeah.
Right?
It's that woke value system.
Yeah.
If you don't think the way we think, then we won't talk to you.
And we won't carry your book.
No, we will not put it on the shelf.
Crazy.
We will not allow you any type of
because
shelf
they
space.
they see critical thinking as the threat.
Oh, it is a threat.
It is a threat.
Okay, so then
It is a threat.
It's a threat to what?
Well, it's a threat to the narrative.
It's a threat to the narrative. It's a threat to
Whose narrative? I don't know.
the government narrative. They want people to be and think a certain way. And if you think it's just like this guy Penn that didn't want to even look at the book or read the book. He looked at the title of the book
But I mean,
and
we have,
was like,
we
I
have
don't
a-
want to
we
be
have a
done with
new
it.
administration, right? It's the government.
Yeah, but you still have people that are still. I mean, look, you still have people that still think that he's crazy and that.
oh, well, I mean, look at what they're doing to Tesla right now.
Yeah.
I mean, how many, there was protests. Even today, there's like protests everywhere.
Did you see the video on Instagram where some guy went in and started kicking this guy's Tesla truck, and the guy was standing there and goes, "What are you doing to my truck?" There's a whole he took
so
video
here,
of it.
critical thinking skills. Let's think about this,
Yeah.
right? The left, Democrats, they have been wanting, they want electric cars,
Right.
Right?
They want. Yeah, they
Clean
They're the
cars,
ones that bought
clean
them all.
vehicles. They're the ones who bought all the clean vehicles, pushing the clean vehicle.
Telling all their friends.
I think that California has like a law in, I forgot what year it is, but by 2030 or
2035.
something.
Actually, Trump unwound it, and it's not happening. But
Okay,
yeah,
but still, it was going to happen.
Right.
And they were going to get rid of all the gas cars in California, right?
you couldn't buy a gas car in California in
And
2035.
now what's happening? All the Democrats are destroying the
here-
electric cars.
But
They're
here's the thing, I don't
destroying
get it,
Teslas.
though. But think about it. So they're setting fire to these cars, and these cars cannot be put out with water.
Folks, these are your neighbors.
They take a long time to put them out. right? I mean, so
They're
you're
keying
now
them. They're graffiti.
no, but what they're doing is they're so environmental,
creating
but they're
pollution.
creating an environmental
They're creating-
They don't
disaster.
care. Gosh,
Yeah.
they're possessed.
You know,
They
but
gotta
I
be
mean,
possessed.
it goes to the
Possessed by
fact that they're
wokeism.
only about a narrative. They're not about the critical thinking part of
That's
it.
exactly right.
Yeah,
They're not there is no critical thought in that act of destroying an electric vehicle, which they see as helping the environment, right?
Well, have you seen all the stickers? I sent him a text message.
oh, I see that all the time.
Of
On the Elon and the thing.
they're on the back. There's stickers on the back of their cars. I hate Elon. I'm not on the Elon path. And I pulled up some lady one day. I just couldn't help it. I rolled my window and I start talking to her. I go, I have a question. Do you like your Tesla? She goes, yeah, it's great. And I go, then why do you have a sticker on it that says you hate Elon Musk? I go, why do you still drive the car? And then, of course,
I take pictures. I see those all the time. I take
She's
pictures all
doing
the
it to
time.
protect her. Maybe your insurance goes down if you put that sticker on.
I doubt it.
She's hoping.
But then there was Congressman Mark, what's his last name? The guy that was the astronaut. His wife was a congresswoman who'd been shot in the face.
Oh God.
Yeah, that was back in
Yeah,
that
dark.
was like 2010, I think. Anyway, he ended up taking her seat. I can't remember his last name for some reason. Right now, it escapes me. But he was when the whole Tesla thing came on. He went, turned his Tesla in, and what did he buy? He bought a GMC Yukon.
Are you? That's like a gas guzzler,
right? So everyone posted. I guess the environmental
Yeah, I get like
thing is over.
12 miles to the gallon on that thing.
But I mean, like, think about how crazy that is.
Yeah.
It's
So here you are, this woke guy that you're all for the environment and the EV cars, and you didn't want to hear that we've got kids in foreign countries that are dying at 20 from digging out all of the lithium and all that out of the ground. No, that.
raw
And
minerals.
here's the other thing: people don't realize all these EV vehicles, you have to replace the tires every single year. Because they're so heavy from the batteries that they burn through tires every
Right.
single
Too
year.
much.
Most people
Isn't
don't
that
know it.
wild? Isn't it? I mean, it's just wild.
Well, wait, you're a scrapper, so what do you do with tires? You can't
I am
recycle
a
them.
recycler.
He's a recycler. You can't recycle tires.
Yeah, you can.
How do you recycle them?
They grind them up.
They grind them up. Okay, but then
They
what do you
turn
do
them
with them?
into the ground at
take-
parks.
in tires.
under
In
the-
tires,
And
you
it's
have-
all toxic.
I know, right? You know what I'm talking about, though?
It's all
They
toxic.
repurpose it and
It's
they make
repurposing-
smooth roads and they fill potholes, which
Well, I'd
they
like to
don't
know
do.
what potholes are filling.
I have
They're not
never
filling them
seen a
around us.
pothole filled with tire.
Yeah, that's how they make asphalt.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Who knew?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I just
Well,
see
no
the
wonder
stuff
they
at
haven't
the
even finished painting.
playground.
It's too
They
cold
blend
because it
the
won't
clean.
set.
Also, they're taking them out of a lot of the playgrounds, but they would grind them up and make that bouncy
Yeah, at the
fabric.
playgrounds.
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't-
toxic.
It's toxic.
I guess it's toxic to kids.
They were
take
using
this
it,
toxic
but you know
stuff
what?
and
They
lay
were
it down.
actually grinding it up and using it in a lot of our equestrian arenas, and we've had micro problems with horses' hooves and their stifles and all kinds of other things. But anyway, the point that I'm making is no one ever talked about the tires, and no one's talked about the fact that these cars are so heavy that we have more potholes now than ever because of all these EV vehicles
And
because
they
they're
still
so heavy
haven't
because of the batteries.
upgraded all the guardrails because the average car weighed a certain amount.
Yeah, and they
And
But-
the mining,
Oh,
mining,
darn.
of
yeah,
the lithium.
yeah. All right, well, that hour went by quick. So
Is
this
it already over?
Yes,
It's over.
The music is here. This is Dr. Shannon Kroner with her brand new book.
Let's Be Critical Thinkers, online now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Pre-order it today.
Before it's sold out when you want to get it, and it's supposed to launch in June.
August, I think.
August.
It launches in August, but
Okay.
you want to pre-order it now. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to drshannonkroner.com.
And that's with a K?
Dr. Shannon, SHANNON, KRONER.com.
Well, thank you so much for for coming back on.
Thanks so
It's
much
so
for having me
exciting. Oh my God, we love having you on. We can't wait
I
when
love
the book
being here.
releases.
I love being
Cannot
here.
wait. So if you haven't followed our channel, please go to our YouTube channel, Jeffy Said What, all one word. Go to our IG, Jeffy Said What. Follow, like, share, and tell your friends. And we will see you next Saturday night. We have another great guest coming next Saturday night, so make sure you tune in. And if you missed our show, make sure you go to our YouTube channel. We'll have it up probably by Tuesday. Thanks, and have a great day.
I will wait for you.